Winter storms, they can be gorgeous, right? But they can also knock out the power, leaving you freezing in the dark. The thing is, knowing what to do and, just as importantly, what to do first can be the difference between a pretty miserable night and a genuine emergency. So, let's get into it.
Okay, picture this. The lights flicker and die. Your phone gives you one last buzz before the Wi-Fi cuts out. Suddenly, the whole house is silent, and you can already feel that deep cold starting to seep in. It's so easy to panic in that moment. But a plan is so much better. So what is the absolute first thing you should be thinking about?
Well, the answer comes from this classic survival tool called the Rule of Threes. It's basically just a simple mental checklist that forces you to focus on whatever is going to harm you the fastest. Think of it as our roadmap for this whole situation. It's going to help us cut through all the noise and focus on what really, truly matters.
And this right here is why it's so useful. It just lays everything out so clearly. You can go about 3 minutes without air. Pretty straightforward. But look at the very next one. Only 3 hours without shelter in a harsh environment. And a house with no heat in the middle of winter? That is absolutely a harsh environment. After that, you've got 3 days for water and a whole 3 weeks for food. So, assuming you can breathe, that 3-hour clock for shelter is our most urgent threat by a long shot.
And that takes us directly to our number one priority, shelter and warmth. And this is not about being cozy, This is about stopping that 3-hour survival clock. First, we have to secure our environment, our home, to stop it from losing heat. And then we have to secure ourselves to stay warm inside it.
Your house is your main shelter, but you'd be surprised how much heat it's constantly losing. I mean, drafty windows alone can account for almost a third of your home's heat loss. So before an outage even hits, you can do these simple, cheap fixes. Sealing drafts, putting up those plastic film kits, or even just rolling up a towel and shoving it against the bottom of a door, it all makes a huge difference. Oh, and don't forget your pipes. The American Red Cross says to let your faucets drip just a little bit. That tiny bit of moving water can prevent them from freezing solid and bursting.
And this quote from a user on a prepper forum just nails it. The goal is not to keep your whole house at a comfortable temperature. That's impossible. The goal is to create a warm little bubble right around your own body. So how do we actually do that?
Well, it all starts with what you're wearing. And listen, not all clothes are created equal here. Materials like wool and fleece are amazing because their fibers trap these little pockets of air that insulate you, and they keep doing it even if they get a little damp. Cotton, though? Cotton is a total disaster. The second it gets wet, whether from snow or just your own sweat, the fibers collapse, they lose all their insulating power, and they actually start pulling heat away from your body. There's an old saying among outdoors people, cotton kills. And in this kind of emergency, that is not an exaggeration.
Now, building on that heat the body idea, here's a really clever trick. Concentrate your warmth. Pick one small room, preferably one without any outside walls, and make that your home base. And you can go even further by building a little shelter inside that room. Seriously, set up a camping tent in the living room, or just drape a bunch of blankets over a kitchen table to make a fort. It feels kind of silly, but the small space will trap your body heat incredibly well.
So at this point, you're probably thinking, what about actually making heat? With a fireplace, a wood stove, a portable heater. And yeah, these can be absolute game changers. They can turn a really scary situation into something totally manageable. But, and this is a big but, they bring a whole new set of dangers that can be way more immediate than the cold itself. Believe it or not, according to experts at Texas A&M, your risk of a house fire or carbon monoxide poisoning actually goes way up during a winter outage. So these safety rules are non-negotiable. If it burns fuel, it needs ventilation, period. Never, and I mean never, use a gas stove or an outdoor grill to heat your house. They pump out deadly carbon monoxide. Keep a 3-foot safety zone around any heater, and please make sure your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors have fresh batteries. This is the stuff that really matters.
Okay, so once you've got your shelter sorted out and you're staying warm, that urgent 3-hour clock isn't ticking quite so loudly anymore. Now we can shift our focus to the next item on our Rule of Threes checklist, water.
Right, so now we're on the 3-day clock for water. It might not feel as pressing as the freezing cold, but dehydration is a serious risk, even when you're not hot and sweating. If your pipes freeze over or the town's water supply gets contaminated, you need a backup. The gold standard is 1 gallon of water per person per day. You can just buy it and store it, or, pro tip, the second you know a big storm is coming, go sanitize your bathtub and fill it up with water. The important thing is just having a source of clean, safe water you can get to.
All right, with shelter and water handled, we can finally start thinking about the longer term. This is about having the physical energy to get through an extended outage and having the resources you need to get back on your feet once the power comes back on. Let's talk about food and money.
Putting together an emergency food supply doesn't have to be some big, intimidating thing. This chart breaks it down really simply. You start with your base, those calorie-dense grains and beans. Then you add in healthy fats, like peanut butter, which help you feel full and give you energy. Add some canned proteins, like tuna or chicken, that are ready to eat. And here's the one people forget: spices. A little salt, a little sugar. It can make a boring meal feel like a real treat. And trust me, that is a huge boost for your morale when you're cold and stressed.
Being financially ready is just as crucial. The government's ready.gov site breaks it down into these easy steps. First, have copies of your important documents somewhere safe. Second, keep some cash at home. When the power's out, credit card machines and ATMs are just useless plastic boxes. And third, do yourself a favor and actually read your insurance policy before anything happens, so you know exactly what is and isn't covered.
So we've covered the big physical needs, right? Shelter, water, food. But getting through an emergency like this, it's just as much a mental game as it is a physical one. And this is where we shift from just surviving to actually thriving by getting a handle on the psychological side of things.
This quote from Anton Chekhov just perfectly captures the idea. Your mindset can literally change your experience of a tough situation. Instead of thinking of it as this awful, miserable time, you can try to frame it as a chance to slow down, to connect, to rest. It's amazing how powerful our perspective can be.
So how do you actually build that mental strength? It really comes down to small, intentional actions. Try to keep a routine. It creates a feeling of normalcy. Make sure you connect with other people, even if it's just a quick text or yelling hello to a neighbor. Stay active. Even just tidying a room can make you feel better. And hey, it generates body heat. And finally, fight the darkness. Open the curtains for sunlight during the day and use some safe light sources like lanterns or glow sticks at night to make it feel less grim.
The big takeaway here is that being prepared isn't some destination you arrive at. It's a practice. It's something you do. Every single thing we talked about, from putting tape on a window to buying an extra can of beans, it all starts with one small, easy action. So I'll just leave you with this. What's one small step you're going to take this week to be just a little more ready?